We're headed to Japan to talk about the White Wonder Sodashi and her attempt at the Victoria Mile. Salutations and welcome, friends. I'm your host of this very special Trust the Profits episode. My name is Matthew DeSantis, and you can find me on Twitter at the handle at Failed to Menace. Now, before we dive into this Victoria Mile preview that I have a very special guest joining me for, make sure to press that subscribe button here on YouTube. We got you covered for all the great content from the Triple Crown through that, into the summer at Saratoga, into the fall back at Keeneland, into the Breeders' Cup at Santa Anita. We got you covered every single week with live betting, handicapping, advice, special guests, all sorts of great content. Plus, we're international, baby. We go over to Japan to cover races. We go over to Europe to cover races. We don't just focus here in on the United States. Make sure to like this video and comment below with what your thoughts are in this year's Victoria Mile. What chances you think Sodashi has in this particular race? But listen, this is an exciting time of year. We're going to see a lot of great international racing in the months ahead. Obviously, we have Royal Ascot not too far down the road. We're going to be covering that. But listen, this is a little bit of a lull this weekend after the Kentucky Derby here in North America. Some nice races at Belmont, which we'll be covering here on the channel. But there's a huge Grade 1 over in Japan, the Victoria Mile, and there is a superstar horse running in that particular race. So we wanted to make sure to cover that. And I am joined by my very special guest this week, Alex Henry. Alex, I go to for all things associated with Japanese racing. She joined me before, and we did a pretty good job, I think, handicapping the February Stakes and some of those other races that day. So, Alex, thank you so much for coming back to talk about the Victoria Mile with me.
Thanks for having me again, Matthew. I'm very happy to be here and excited to talk about another amazing weekend of racing from Japan.
Absolutely. So, well, listen, Japan obviously was on the tip of everyone's tongue over the last month or so with Derma Sodagake, with Continuar, with Mandarin Hero. Obviously, two of those ended up running, Derma and the Mandarin Hero. Just wanted to get your maybe initial thoughts on what you thought of their efforts in this race. Obviously, the streak continues with Japan not being able to win the Derby, but I thought Derma in particular really put in a very nice effort. And now they're headed back over to Japan for, I'm sure, a pretty big campaign over there this year.
Indeed. So I thought that both ran well considering. So we know that Derma Sodagake totally blew the break like we were hoping he wouldn't. You know, darn that cursed 17. Even though he didn't break from the 17, he wore the 17 saddle cloth. So darn that curse. But just kidding, of course. But no, ran well considering, kind of weaved through traffic and was able to finish sixth. And then Mandarin Hero was pretty much almost last throughout alongside Tappet Trice, and then was able to get 12th. So wasn't a pitiful showing at all. Seems like the horses were pretty tired. You know, of course, Continuar was scratching before the race. All three, of course, packed up and headed back to Japan. And it seems like connections are headed for the Japan Dirt Derby, which I believe is July 12th. Which is actually a Wednesday of all days. So interesting, great Group 1 racing from Japan on a Wednesday. But they'll be looking to race over 1.25 miles and try their luck again against local competition.
Yeah, and hey, listen, Wednesday racing, that's fantastic. They're the only game in town, so we have every reason to cover that one, and I'll have you back for that for sure. Talk about that race. That'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, I thought, Derma ran well, and Mandarin Hero, listen, gets into the race on basically 48 hours notice. And I will say, out of all of the also eligibles, ran the best out of all those also eligibles. I think the other two finished 15th and 18th, Lord Miles, or I'm sorry, not Lord Miles, but Cyclone Mischief and King Russell. So yeah, so obviously a great effort there from Derma, and it was fun to see these horses over here. But now we're going to talk about Japanese racing, and in particular a horse like Sodashi, who's in this year's Victoria Mile. And before we get into handicapping the race and talking about who we like in this particular spot, I wondered if you could talk a little bit. You mentioned this last time you were on, but for new viewers, the sort of fandom that exists over in Japan around Sodashi in particular, but just in general around horse racing and the sort of merchandise that's around horse racing and the sort of way in which the culture celebrates these horses that's maybe a little unique from what we do here in the United States.
Absolutely. So I would love to debut my Sodashi plushie. If she can be seen through the filter, but here she is. Yes. Yeah. So there's tons of cute little gifts like these that the JRA produces. This is not some knockoff company producing plushies, t-shirts, hats, keychains, lanyards, anything you can think of, pillows, signed memorabilia. This is truthfully the racing jurisdiction, the Japanese Racing Authority, JRA, producing these amazing, amazing pieces of memorabilia that are actually worth quite a lot of money. And I was actually fortunate enough to be gifted some of these by our friend Klaus Ebner. I'm out of Woodbine because he gets the goods, and sometimes I reap the benefits. But you can buy these items online. I actually recommend a site called Buyee,
Okay.
.com, and so that's a way to buy them in English using US dollars. But truthfully, the fandom is amazing. People camp out for 24 hours, 48 hours before the race starts to get good seats, or to get good standing room, even not even seats, but just standing room to see their favorites.
Yeah.
People make signs, posters, their chants that each race has, like clapping in unison and
Yeah.
chanting before the big races. It's truly an amazing fanfare. But again, I'd like to reiterate, it's really the JRA and the racing
Yeah.
authorities coming together and supporting the fans. Of course, they do right by the horses, the trainers, and the owners. They have rich, rich purses, even down from maidens at small tracks to of course, Grade 1 races. The purses are rich. They take care of the horses. So it's just an amazing jurisdiction to be a fan of, and it's really easy to be a fan because you can
Yeah.
have a wall full of plushies like I do.
Yeah, no, I think that's really awesome. I love that the JRA is the one taking the lead on this. That it's not just kind of an entrepreneurial owner, let's say, or trainer or something like that. And honestly, we just saw kind of a nasty divorce here in the United States between over the ownership and trainership of Rich Strike. Just today, as we're recording this on Thursday, May 11th, there's been name, image, and likeness issues, and kind of capitalizing on the horse's image and documentary form, etc. And just really kind of a less than stellar type of a story to hear. And so to hear the kind of palate cleansing, quite frankly, that you see over in Japan, where it's like, oh, everybody can get along, and you have an organized group and an organized an organization that can kind of bring everyone together and promote the game in a really great way. And that's just really awesome. So love to see that. And I knew you had that Sodashi plushie, so I wanted to see that and wanted to ask you about it. So well, let's dive into the racing, because that's why we're here, is to talk about the handicapping of this year's Grade 1 Victoria Mile. And this is a loaded field. 19 horses entered the field. You see, I have them listed in alphabetical order here with their trainer as well as their lifetime record. And it feels like the second half of the alphabet is where the serious contenders are when looking at this. Certainly, Sodashi is a horse that I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on, but another horse like Stars on Earth is another horse that's never missed the board and is certainly a very serious contender here. Even a horse like Songline, I know, has a lot of really impressive efforts as well. So interested in where you're looking in this particular race and maybe how you think it's going to set up.
Absolutely. So of course, I have to say just outright. So this is Victoria Mile is a mile, of course, 1,600 meters on turf for fillies and mares 4 years old and older at Tokyo Race Course. Sodashi is aiming to become only the third horse to win this race back to back. Previous two winners were Veracina in 2013 and 2014, and Straight Girl in 2015 and 2016. So she would join a very exclusive club if she were to win this race. I'm definitely looking at her as a fan and as a race goer as well. Why? Well, she's been off. She was off for a couple of months after November, after her November effort, after finishing third to males in the Grade 1 Mile Championship at Hanshin as a second favorite. And again, this was against males, so she wasn't even against her own sex.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's coming in. She looks good. She's gained weight. I think she's gained, I think, 12 kilograms or something like that. So she's gained muscle. And so she'll be looking for her first win since she won this race last year. So I'm counting on her probably to be second favorite. So not the best value. I do have a great value horse, by the way. We
Oh,
can discuss.
can't wait to hear it. Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, look, she's been training forwardly, and the news is really on her. So hoping she can run to form.
That's great. So who do you see as the first potential choice? Is it Stars on Earth? You think with the, and we should mention Stars on Earth. I was kind of looking at this. is a horse that seems to be cutting back in distance. I mean, it had been running at 2,000 meters, 2,400 meters even last year in the Japanese Oaks. And so, that's always something, when you're screwing around with distances, you wonder, can a horse that's used to going longer maybe keep up with the pace of a mile long race and things along those lines? So interesting that she's taking that sort of a cutback, but obviously very, very serious horse and a very good one at that.
Agree. And of course, that cutback, to a mile from a longer distance is an angle, of course, we use in the US as well. Love her chances. Right now I can see the preliminary JRA betting pool, and she's sitting at a decimal odds of 2.2. Sadashi's sitting at, I believe, 4.4, so roughly double.
Yeah.
So those two are vying, top two. Stars on Earth definitely is a favorite. So this filly nearly won the Japanese Filly Triple Crown last year. She finished third in the last leg, the Shuka Show, over 2,000 meters in October. They gave her a break for a couple months, and the break was in transitioning to a Grade 1 race. So they were very ambitious in the Grade 1 Osaka High against males in April. She didn't embarrass herself at all. She finished second to Jack D'Or, who is widely considered at least top three, right? Top three older male in Japan right now. So she's a very deserving favorite. Should she go off as the favorite on Saturday?
Yep, absolutely. So now you mentioned you have a little bit of a long shot here that you're interested in, a little bit of a value play. So who do you like here as a potential value play in this one?
I do have a value play. So my value play sire is on my shirt, Deep Impact, right here. Of course, have to represent my favorite horse of all time in Japan. So my long shot play is Rouge Styria. So 4-year-old filly, yep, by Deep Impact and out of USA bred Stormcat mare named Driving Snow. So Rouge Styria is a filly that has needed some time. It's unclear if she's kind of suffered from some mental development issues or some physical issues, but she actually broke her maiden pretty early as a 2-year-old in August of 2021. They kind of put her up until her 3-year-old year, and she didn't race again until March 2022 in the Tulip Show, which is like a prep race for the Japanese Filly Triple Crown series. She finished 6th there, so just a little disappointing, but it was an ambitious placement. Then they went ahead and tried again in the Flora Stakes over 2,000 meters in April, where she completely faltered and finished 15th. So they kind of backed off on her until September, and then that seemed to do the trick. She did some growing, gained some mental toughness, and went on a 3-race winning streak, going up the ranks, kind of like the allowance, like non-winners of 1, non-winners of 2, and then Japan, they actually have a non-winners of 3 ranking, and so she won 3 races in a row on that step ladder. And then earlier this year, they put her in the Grade 2 Hanshin Himba Stakes in April, and didn't have the best trip. Actually had a really crappy trip. The trainer was quoted as saying the race got worse and worse after she was hampered. So that's kind of how things went for her.
Yeah.
I think she learned a lot from this. Now 4-year-old, she will be a big price, at least over 20 to 1, I'm sure, probably 30 to 1 or plus in the US market if the secret stays between us. But if she can break well and continue to mature and learn from that last effort, I think she can be right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that is a huge price. So love that. A couple of horses I was looking at, just I think more so also from just like the race shape. A horse like Namora Claire, I'm interested in just because she seems to be a very good sprinter and is now stretching out to this mile distance. So I'd imagine she would be a significant pace presence in this particular race. And so you never know if you get bold on the front end and you're able to hold on in that sort of a way. I mean, she's obviously a very good sprinter at that, but this will be her kind of one of her toughest tests to date at that point. Another horse like Lala Christine, I'm actually kind of like mildly interested in as well. Obviously, a big fan of the trainer as well, and Saito. And then the horses run well. Not granted, not at this level. This is again a step up in class for sure, but there's some talent there. I mean, this horse is 9 for 12 in the exacta in her career, so she knows how to finish and she knows how to get to the finish line. So those were two that I was looking at a little bit, and then Stellaria. As well, another Saito horse that I just, like I said, second back from a little bit of a layoff and thought might present some nice value looking at that one. But yeah, like you, Sodashi made a ton of sense there, I think. And also if you're going to be getting double the price that you're getting on Stars on Earth, then I think Sodashi makes a lot of sense as just a bet. I mean, a lot of times a horse this popular, you're going to get 6 to 5 in the United States. You're going to get below even money. And so the fact you're getting 4.4 on this sort of a horse that is so universally beloved presents some really nice value. So yeah, this one's kind of interesting. And I didn't know if you had any thoughts on some of the horses that I had just mentioned.
Yeah, actually, I did. Stellaria is definitely one I took a look at. One more I'd just like to mention. I'd be remiss
Yeah.
if we didn't mention, and she won. Songline.
Yes.
Songline is just a world traveling, hard knocking mare.
Yeah.
5 years old now. Last race out was over I believe 2,000 meters, and the jockey was like, "It's too short." I translated the on humanity.jp. If you sign up for like the premium service, they have jockey comments, and he was like, "This is too short. Let's try over a mile." So hopefully the translation was right. Google Translate, don't fail me now. But that's a filly that could definitely be right there as well. And just has traveled the world, went to Saudi Arabia and finished 15th last out. I think she can rebound and be overlooked here since she did finish 15th last out. So
yeah.
Now on her home turf against her own sex could be a winner.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought her up too, because she was one that I had circled as well. So I'm glad we covered our bases. Listen, I think we probably gave out a winner, and we might have given out a price of either up top or underneath. So Alex, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate your time today. Let everybody know where they can find you on Twitter and what's going on in your world.
Absolutely. Please find me on Twitter at HMLAA. And I'm also on Instagram with the same, although my Instagram is a lot more boring and cat focused than my Twitter. Twitter is all business, all horse racing. Also, if you watch the JRA, the simulcast for JRA, I give picks alongside a couple of friends. Our names will show up on the feed. And we give like 4 picks usually per race. So fingers crossed that we have some winners for you and some good prices as well.
Absolutely. And I will say, when I saw your name pop up, I was like, oh, Alex. That was very exciting when I saw your name pop up on the JRA feed. So that was awesome. So very good. Well, Alex, thank you again so much for joining me. And listen, thank you for watching this Victoria Mile preview. Make sure to press that subscribe button here on YouTube. Make sure to like this video, comment below with who do you think is going to win this particular race. Make sure to throw both of us a follow on Twitter. And until next time, friends, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and profitable day at the races and reminding you it's now post time.